Hey guys, today we're talking about GLP-1 weight loss drugs. We all know someone who all of a sudden is looking a lot slimmer. They've lost a lot of weight. They look great, they feel great, but what's the catch, right? A lot of people are taking GLP-1 weight loss drugs. You've heard of Ozempic, you've heard of Wegovy, you've heard of Mounjaro. They're all very similar. Today we're talking about the good and the bad, coming from my perspective, which is a health coach. I help people lose weight for a living, and I also went through my own weight loss journey of losing 125 pounds, keeping that off for over 20 years, doing it the natural way, right? And so my perspective on GLP-1 weight loss drugs, is it good? Is it bad? Well, it depends. Stay tuned. All right, so GLP-1 drugs, everyone's taking them. Like I said, we all know someone who's looking a lot slimmer these days, who's lost weight, who looks healthier, right? These people look healthier. Let's talk about first the good. So let's talk about three different things that I think, in my opinion, are good about these GLP-1 weight loss drugs. The first thing I want to talk about that's good about these weight loss drugs is the fact that if you're 300, 400, 500 pounds and you're in a really, really bad place health-wise, then maybe this is a really good way to kickstart your journey and to get you to start losing some weight, and maybe to get you to hopefully think differently about your relationship with food and about everything else that we're going to talk about here in a second. So I think for people who are really in a bad situation, maybe they've tried some other stuff and it hasn't worked, I think that, look, if you're over 300 pounds and you lose 15% of your body weight, then that's a lot of weight, right? That's going to get you healthier no matter what. There are camps that say there's a lot of good stuff about this, there's a lot of bad stuff about this. Everyone seems to be kind of split on these GLP-1 drugs. I feel like I'm kind of in the middle because I think it depends. It depends on the person, it depends on the situation, and whether it's a good option or not. So the first reason I think it's good, like I said, it's a good kickstart to get someone going in the right direction, to get them out of that kind of red zone where they're maybe 300, 400, 500 pounds, they're very unhealthy, maybe they're type 2 diabetic and they need to get back into a healthier zone. That's a really good reason to take one of these drugs potentially. Follow up with your doctor, obviously, because any information that I give here is just my advice. I'm a health coach, I'm not a doctor, so go talk to your doctor about whether you want to take some of these drugs. The second reason why I think it's a good thing is because, look, it's effective. It works. People are losing up to 15% of their body weight. For a 200-pound person, that's a lot of weight. That's 30 pounds. So these drugs are working and people are seeing great results with them. Now, we'll talk about some of the side effects in a second and the bad part, but people are losing weight and these drugs are working. And so they're incredibly effective. They're only going to be more effective with, we started off with Ozempic, which is basically Semaglutide. And then after that, they came up with Mounjaro, which is tirzepatide. It's a second kind of, think of it as a version 2, right? Where it's hitting a couple of different areas. And then there's going to be more that are going to be more effective. So they're coming, they're on the way. They're just only going to get more and more and more effective. And so we have to be aware of the fact that these are effective. They're kind of probably here to stay unless something really bad happens. And me specifically, as a person that's coaching people through fat loss, I have clients that are taking, these weight loss drugs, and I don't judge them for it. I say, all right, you're doing this. What do I need to do to make sure that I align with you so that when you get off of it, you have all of the good habits in place and you're able to maintain that weight loss? And that's something we'll talk about here. The third reason why I think it's a good thing for certain people is because there are a lot of people coming out and saying that they're noticing that there's other effects other than just a weight loss. There's some mental effects, there's some behavioral effects. They're even saying that some people, it helps them with addictions, whether it's alcohol addiction, any kind of drug and substance abuse addiction. There is not too much research around it. I think it's more anecdotal. It's just kind of hearsay. This person says this person says that. But there is some anecdotal evidence to say and to show that it's helping people quit smoking, or it's helping people quit drinking if they want to quit drinking, or any other type of bad habit. It's making people think less about food as opposed to just being always thinking about food and when the next meal is. So those are some good things about these GLP-1 drugs. And again, if you're in that situation where you're trying to get out of the red zone and you're very, very unhealthy, you're possibly type 2 diabetic, you're metabolically unhealthy, that's a good reason to get away and to get away from that zone. And GLP-1 weight loss drugs could be a really, really good tool to get you into a healthier place, to then put in another plan. And that's what we're going to talk about, in the future here. So what are the bad things about it? In my opinion, some of the bad things about it are, look, most people that are taking these drugs are extremely overweight, and they're probably not doing the basics that they need to be doing to be healthy. Things like strength training, things like managing their relationship with food, things like having enough protein throughout the day. So we've noticed that a lot of people are losing, again, 15% of their weight. Let's say you're 300 pounds. If that person isn't strength training, and if that person isn't ingesting enough protein, then likely they're gonna lose a lot of muscle and not as much fat. So out of the 60 pounds, you would like to see about 75% of that, maybe 45 pounds or so, come from fat loss, and the other rest of the weight coming from muscle loss. You're always going to lose some muscle. However, what we're seeing is that because people aren't strength training, and because these drugs just make you feel so full all the time, people aren't eating enough protein, because protein is the most satiating macronutrient that exists out of the three. And so if you're not eating enough protein, and then again, you're not strength training, then you're not giving your body a reason to keep muscle. And so you're losing muscle along with the fat that you're losing. And that's not healthy, because at the end of the day, you end up percentage-wise about the same or even fatter in some cases. And so you want to protect against that. If you are on one of these drugs, you want to make sure that you're strength training, and you want to make sure that you're having enough protein. I know it's hard because you're going to feel full, but you have to do those two things in order to help you long-term, and in order to make sure that you lose more fat and not as much muscle throughout the process. One of the other things that I think is bad is that there is a lot of digestive issues. A lot of people complain about whether it's vomiting or whether it's other digestive issues going on. With that digestive issue, things like diarrhea and things like that, that also causes dehydration. And so there's even some anecdotal evidence from people taking the drugs saying that they just don't feel as thirsty, and so they're not drinking as much water. So if you couple not wanting to drink enough water with the fact that now all of a sudden you maybe have some digestive issues, whether it's vomiting or whether it's any kind of digestive issues that's causing more dehydration, then all of a sudden you have two big things that are causing your body to be dehydrated. That's not healthy, and you have to protect against that. So how do you protect against that? You have to have awareness around it. You have to be aware of the fact that if I'm on one of these drugs, I may not feel like I want to drink water all that much, maybe because I feel full all the time, maybe because I just don't feel thirsty. You got to drink water, you got to stay hydrated. And then the other thing is, if you do have some digestive issues, because not everyone gets them, but a lot of people do, then make sure that you're supplementing with more water, supplementing with electrolytes possibly, because when you're losing all of that liquid and fluid, you're also probably losing some electrolytes. And so you want to make sure that your hydration level is good, and you want to make sure that your electrolyte level is where it should be as well, because that's just going to keep you feeling better and feeling good as you go through this entire process. The other thing is, look, it's expensive. I think that the average monthly cost, depending on whether you have insurance helping you out or not, as I was researching through this for this video, what I came up with was anywhere from $900 to $1,350. That's a lot of money per month. Me as a health coach, it's funny because I think about people would rather spend that money on GLP-1 weight loss drug, and they'll spend a lot more, versus if you tell someone, hey, I'm going to tell you everything you've got to do, and I'm going to give you a really great plan, and I'm going to tailor it to your lifestyle, and you're going to lose weight naturally, and you're not going to have to take any drugs, and it'll cost you half of that. Most people won't do it. Most people are going to go with the easiest path of least resistance, which is the GLP-1 drugs. And that's why they're so popular. And that's why these pharma companies are pumping them out. And that's why they're going to make them even better to try to continue to increase their earnings on these drugs. And so you as a consumer, you have to be aware of the fact that there's different ways to lose weight. Everyone's unique. You don't have to go down this path if you don't need to. If you're not in that red zone where you're 300, 400, 500 pounds and you're type 2 diabetic and you have all these health complications, maybe you don't need this. Maybe you just need to buckle down and really realize that, hey, I've got to do the things that I've got to do to lose weight. I've got to eat healthy. I've got to stick with, drinking enough water and maybe exercising, getting some movement in, and starting slowly, but working with someone, working with a health coach, working with, your doctor, working with anyone that you have access to be able to implement the right behaviors so that then you can see that slow and gradual change, but that lasting change. That's going to be lasting change. So another bad thing about these drugs is that when people get off of them, 90% of the people in the latest research that I see are going to gain that weight back. Why? Because they didn't focus on the foundation. They didn't establish the fundamental behaviors that they need to have, the habits of eating healthy, of eating enough protein, of working out, of strength training, things like that. So all of a sudden, if they're eating very, very little, because these drugs make them very full, they're not having enough protein and they're not working out and strength training, so they're losing a lot of muscle, that's slowing down their metabolism. And then all of a sudden, when you get off the drugs, you have a very slow metabolism. And then you're not really exercising because you weren't exercising before. And guess what? When you get off the drugs, you're going to be hungry again. That's normal. It's okay. You're supposed to be hungry. You're supposed to want to eat food. But the problem is you're going to gain that weight back because you're hungry again. You're going to eat like a normal person, but you're not moving. You're not exercising. You're not doing all the basic foundational things that you need to have in place in order to have lasting change. And so that's why so many people have that rebound effect and they gain the weight back. And that in itself, the process of losing weight and then gaining fat back, that is unhealthy as well, because when you lose fat, you don't lose fat cells. Your fat cells just shrink. The problem is when you gain weight back, those fat cells gain size, but then you also gain new fat cells. So now in the future, it may be harder for you to lose weight. Okay, so that's something to consider as well. So let's get into some basic considerations on whether this is a good thing or a bad thing for you. In my opinion, I think the main thing to consider is, are you addressing the foundational habits and behaviors that are going to keep you healthy for the long term? Whether you're taking the drugs or not, let's not even worry about that. You need to be doing the foundational stuff. You need to be strength training. You need to be having enough protein and developing a relationship with nutrition and with food that works for you and your lifestyle. You need to make sure that you're getting movement in throughout the day. You need to make sure that you're just overall doing the things that healthy and fit people do so that you can maintain those results afterwards, because you will get hungry again when you stop taking the drugs. The other thing is, there's some doctors out there that are recommending that people stay on this forever, even in small doses. Look, I don't want to put myself in a position where I have to be dependent on a drug for the rest of my life. The pharmaceutical industry does want that. They want people to be on drugs for the rest of their life. I'm not going to recommend that to anybody, and much, much less a medication and a drug that's somewhat newer, that we don't know what it's going to have in terms of long-term impact and long-term effects. There's studies that are showing now that some of the digestive issues will stay with you after you get off of the drug. And so those are all things to consider. You have to think about the long-term plan. What's your long-term plan, whether you're taking them or not? When you get off of it, you have to have a long-term plan. This is where I really recommend working with someone who's going to help you to implement that plan and who's going to be able to tailor it to your lifestyle. I'm not just saying that because that's what I do for a living and I'm a health coach and a weight loss coach. I'm telling you because I don't want you to gain the weight back when you get hungry, when you get off the drug again. That's going to happen. It happens to 90% of the people. What are you doing to make sure that you're that other 10% that it's not going to happen to? So think about that as you try to plan on getting off of these drugs if you are taking them. If you're not even taking them yet, maybe reconsider and think about the pros and the cons, like I said. The last thing that I'll leave you with is, whether you're taking these drugs or not, you have to establish a new identity. If you're really overweight and all of a sudden you're losing weight, you have to establish a new identity. And I've talked about this in previous videos, but there's nothing more powerful than seeing yourself as this new version of yourself, this new identity. You're someone who does healthy and fit things. You're someone who has a good relationship with food. You're someone who enjoys strength training. These are all things that are part of your life now that you do. You don't have to think about it. It's like getting up and brushing your teeth in the morning. It's something that you do. It's part of who you are. And because of that, you're healthier in the end, and you're healthier in the long run. And so I want you to think about focusing on having a shift in your identity so that you can really just become this new person. Because this isn't something that you want to do for 2 months or 6 months. Yeah, you want to take the weight loss drug for a little bit and then hopefully get off of it and wean yourself off of it as soon as possible. And you need to talk to a doctor and have, proper medical guidance to do that. But at the end of the day, whenever you get off of it, you're going to want to have some long-term plans in place. You're going to want to make sure that part of that is just establishing this new identity and realizing that, okay, I used to be overweight. I used this GLP-1 drug to help me to get to a certain place, but now it's on me. Now I have to make sure that I have the right foundational behaviors and habits in place to stay healthy so that I don't have to go through this process again. That's the good, that's the bad, and those are some considerations for you to think about. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe to my channel. I'm gonna be putting out about a video every week on different topics relating to health, relating to muscle building, relating to life, and relating to, weight loss and fat loss. So whatever I feel like talking about that day, I'm gonna post it, and I hope that you guys get some value out of it. Make sure that you check out the next video popping up over here, I think, and let me know if you have any questions. Like and subscribe to the channel. It helps other people that need to see this to get the content to them, to get the videos delivered to them. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.